Greetings, my friends. Welcome to part 2 of round 4 of the Ask Me Anything. I am, of course, Oliver Joyce. And if you missed part 1, you can check it out in my video playlist just on the channel. We had been doing this for about 45 minutes, and I'm recording on the same day, but I thought we'd take a little bit of a break and upload the rest tomorrow, just because, attention spans being what they are. You don't want to hear me talk for an hour and a half. You'd probably go a bit nuts as well. But let's, without further ado, continue along. And with Ilya Gurovich, who is a wonderful patron of the series and active member of this Discord channel. And he's been a great guy, a great supporter of the series. So he has a few questions for me. Without spoiling too much, what is the most radical change you've implemented in Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux? Okay, well, I feel like there's a few things. There's tournaments are in the game, and that's a bit of a nod to the classic Defender of the Crown, which Swords and Sandals Crusader was based on. Defender of the Crown had a tournament mode, which you could joust for lands and fame and that kind of thing. I think that is, it doesn't change the gameplay too much, but it allows you to have, just a bit more interaction with the characters. I think the most radical change to this one is morale plays a bigger part in Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux. It can force you to skip turns. It can your troops can abandon you outside of combat and that kind of thing. You have to work harder to keep your troops happy. That's probably the major changes. Question 2: with so many new mini stories you've included into Crusader Redux, how often will they appear in the game? Still pretty rarely. If you want to know the maths behind it, you start off with a 1 in 100 chance per turn. And then if you don't get a mini story, that goes up to 2 in 100, then 3 in 100, then 4 in 100, then 5 in 100, which is basically 1 in 20. So after, once every 20 turns or so, you probably get a mini story, and then that goes back to 1 in 100. I'm going to play with that number. I'll play around with it. And if it feels like I'm never getting any stories, then I'll increase it. But you'll get them, but it's not that frequent. You don't want to have to constantly being interrupted by these stories, but I want them to be part of the game. And they do actually impact the game. They can have some pretty brutal effects on your character and the army, because a lot of the stories are pretty punishing. They really hurt morale and stuff. There are some that are good though. The stories themselves, thank you everybody. Thanks so much for contributing. Especially I want to give a shout out to Emmanuel Arieta, aka Overlord, who's done some beautiful stories from the Discord channel. He's also the mod of the Discord channel. And also the Duke of Lies, who is from Tasmania here in Australia. And I've never seen writing like this. He's a fantastic writer, and he's full of creative stories and lore and just things that I wouldn't have thought of. And this is a guy that I want to bring on to help me write Sword and Sandals in the future. So he's written, no joke, easily probably 20 or 30 stories for the game. And I can't thank you enough. Other than online multiplayer, what can we expect for replayability for Sword and Sandals 6? Does it have a rematch mode against arena champions, the player defeated in story mode? I don't know. It's a good idea, because I think replayability is a big part, and you don't necessarily want to start a new character. When your character wins Sword and Sandals, there's often been a case of, what do you do now? What's the end game like? So I'm thinking about that, but I think multiplayer will be a big part of that. And even having the DLC will be, downloadable content like the Sword and Sandals 3 stuff, and the Galactic Tournament will extend the life of it. I'm hoping that Sword and Sandals 6 is a game that lives for a number of years, because it's it'll be a big one to make, but I want it to feel a bit more in depth than the other ones, and I want you to feel like it's a game that you come back to time and time again. Also, when will the game's Gladiator return for season 3? Could you do live streaming this season? Man, live streaming, I'm kind of like, I get a little nervous, a little self-conscious. Like, what if I'm picking my nose, or my son is waking up and crying, I have to go or something. I don't know. We could try it. It's certainly something I should try at least once. Do a Twitch thing or something, or a live stream. It will be coming back. I've got a few things going on this year, which I'll announce soon, which might slow me down a little bit with that. But I will endeavor to do some more videos because there's a bunch of games I want to do some gameplay for. Games like Bad North and the classic Sword and Sandals games, that kind of thing. I want to do those again. There is a bunch of games that I want to Skull Against the Black Priority is another one. But yeah, it'll be coming back, but I want to kind of do it when I have a chunk of time. And finally, the most important question of all, how are you, mate? Thanks for all the memories and chats on Discord. I'm very well, my friend. How are you? Something I should ask you guys more. How are you guys doing? We spend so much time talking about Sword and Sandals and by extension talking about me and my life. I'd like to know how you guys are. So always, as I said in the last video, please feel free to hit me up on Discord or here, wherever you can. If you just need a chat, if you just want to, you need advice or whatever it is, if you're feeling lonely, I don't have unlimited time, but I want to be able to, I'm not just some unapproachable game developer. This is a community. I'm the creator of the games, but I'm also part of the community, as are you guys and girls, and I want this to feel like a community. That's why Sword and Sandals is different from many other games, in that we have a tight-knit community and you guys help each other out and I help you out. All right. Seaside Plasma 2208 writes, when will Sword and Sandals 6 be on public? When it will be released, I guess. It'll be 2021 at the earliest. It's going to be a year and a half. I keep delaying it. I'm sorry. I should have started it by now, but I wanted to do Crusader Redux before I got started because I know it'll be so long in between launches. But I'll be showing you a lot about the game as I'm making it. Joe asks, how long did it take to make Sword and Sandals 3 compared to the first one? How long do the games usually take to make? 3 took ages. It took probably about 8 months. The first one only took about 2 months. It was really quick. But 3 took a long time, mainly because of the multiplayer stuff. I was using this thing called SmartFox Server, and I had to write all this server code, and I had to learn JavaScript, and it took ages to test, and a lot of it went wrong. As you all know, the multiplayer servers eventually fell over, and the game couldn't be played multiplayer. It took a little while to get the kind of armor stuff done, the drag and drop, like the paper doll thing where you drag your helmet on. I really like that though, and I want to put that back in Sword and Sandals 6 because I think it's a fun way of dragging armor on, dragging armor off. I actually got that from Ultima 7. Was the first game I saw paper dolls in. And my games usually take these days around about a year. Spartacus took about 10 months. Pirates took longer, but I had a big break in between it. And Crusader Redux is a short game. It'll only take about 4 months to make, but it's only because I'm using the Pirates engine already. Good questions. Thanks, Joe. Mehmet Altuntas writes, I want Sword and Sandals Crusader for Android. When will it come? Thanks. Hey, Mehmet, are you from Turkey? It's a popular Turkish name, right? I'd love to go to Turkey. I say that about every country, but man, Turkey, if you may not be from Turkey, but apologies if you're not, but I just think that Turkish culture is amazing. Just the story behind Istanbul and, before that Constantinople and the Byzantines and just the food and the atmosphere. I always wanted to go there and, never did. But that's not really answering your question, is it? Crusader Redux will come to Android probably a couple of weeks after it comes out on Steam. It will be soon after, but it will definitely be on Android and iOS for sure. And I've designed it with Android in mind, bigger buttons and that kind of thing. It'll be the first time Crusader's come to mobile, so that was one of the reasons I'm making it again. The game itself isn't that different from the original Crusader. Please don't think that this game is going to be a radically different game from the Crusader. It'll still play in quite a similar way, but because I'm using the Pirates engine, I can bring it out mobile. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Samatsu writes, questions. How about Sword and Sandals Online? Most people played this as a kid, played this game. However, most of us are grown up, so I doubt many people want to play it by themselves. It's hard to say. I know that a lot of people... Sorry, my phone is going crazy. Ding, ding, ding. A lot of people like single player games still. I know games like Uncharted and Jedi Fallen Order and those kind of games have been massive single player games, and online is a big thing to make. And because I'm just a solo developer, it's something that probably at this stage won't happen. Maybe if I really have some success with it, I can try and bring it out as like a light MMO style game, but I don't know if that will ever happen just because it takes so long to make. And he also writes, what brings people back to this game? Nostalgia. If you could make this online, we could team up with our friends and go through the arena. That would be awesome. And I'm pretty sure many people would love to experience this. There's so much potential. Please give it a thought. Yeah, I would love to do at least a multiplayer component. And team multiplayer would be something that may happen in Sword and Sandals 6. Fingers crossed. Or knock on wood. Thanks for the question. Trudinsky Storoviniko. I actually got that right in the last video and I stuffed it up this time. Sorry, my friend. Will Sword and Sandals Tavern Quests ever get a Redux? Maybe. I keep saying no for these ones, but I would like to somehow, bring that thing back one day. The problem with that one is all the mini games, so I'd have to do the mini games again. I'd probably do different mini games. Maybe Tavern Quest 2. Is that something people would like? If the series is successful enough, I'll go back and fix up all the old ones. Alan Huang writes, just saw that Sword and Sandals out on YouTube, and I've got to say it truly brought back nostalgia from 10 years ago. Yeah, it has been 10 years, Alan. It has been a long time. That's a funny video. There's these guys, I forgot their names, but they did a bunch of really silly live action videos of themselves fighting, playing Sword and Sandals. And they contacted me and said, do you want to use this? And I said, yeah, I'd love to do this in a kind of little ad. And that, more than any other sort of advertising or anything like that, it's just sort of struck a chord with people that, remember playing this at the same silly age. This stupid combat where you could kind of rah and yell and kind of hit each other, then wait and then fall asleep, that kind of thing. So nostalgia is a big part of the series, and I've always been a big fan of it, and I'm nostalgic for my own childhood and He-Man and Transformers and Star Wars and that kind of thing. And I'm glad that Sword and Sandals has become a nostalgic thing for others. I mean, I think that's awesome. Good Fish Man writes, it's awesome to see Sword and Sandals come back. Is there any removed content or features you wanted in but never got around to doing? I pretty much have put most of the content in for the games. There was a few sort of bits of armor and so on that didn't make the cut. I always wanted to put more features in Sword and Sandals. Which one was it? Sword and Sandals 5 probably had the most features cut, because I was playing on this endless dungeon. There was meant to be a fifth dungeon, which was that little island on the water. It was meant to be a sort of a challenge dungeon, which I ran out of time to do. And those are the main things. Most of the games have all the content that they were going to have in them, but I would love to have brought back the multiplayer for Sword and Sandals 3 as well. When that broke, I was really sad, and it kind of sucked. Anyway, Brandon Johnson writes, question 1, is it going to be a Sword and Sandals Wild West game? No plans, but there is an area in Sword and Sandals 5. Hey, sorry, I'm going to turn that down. Turn that down somehow. Anyway, ignore that. It's going to be a Sandals Wild West game. In Sword and Sandals, the world, there is an area called the Badlands, which is all canyons and that kind of thing. And that would be a great setting for the Wild West. Because there are sort of, the automatons have brought the technology of guns and so on. No one knows how to make them other than these guys. And there's sort of muskets and limited supply of gunpowder. And that's why you don't see guns as a reliable, useful weapon in the series. But some kind of Wild West themed area would be kind of fun. Question 2 is, where is Sword and Sandals 6 and what would it be about? As I mentioned earlier, this one is probably 2021 at the earliest, maybe even 2022, year and a half away. This one focuses back in the arena. The automatons are back in town. They've brought back with them that champion from Sword and Sandals 3. But there's a new antagonist, someone we haven't met before, that will be a big part of the game and someone quite formidable, and that leads into Constellation Mirror. And question 3, what was the ending of Sword and Sandals 3 foreshadowing? This is where the gladiator goes off in a spaceship and he goes off into space to fight in a galactic tournament. And then when he comes back, he's more powerful than ever. That's foreshadowing, basically, that he and the automatons will be coming back. I had originally planned for Swords and Sandals 4 to be set in space with the galactic tournament. But then my old boss, we've talked about him in the past, we never got on very well, and we had a lot of fallings out over Swords and Sandals. He suggested to do a bunch of silly mini games and board games and crap like that, and that's what Swords and Sandals 4 was. But I actually wanted to be an arena thing. One of the many fights we had over the years. Gogo Zikora writes, "Hello there. Is it possible to make an add-on for Tavern Quest that enables online multiplayer? I'd pay any price for that." Any price? $1 million? Not possible to do much with Sword and Sandals Tavern Quest, just because the code is so old and busted and written in Flash and so on. But if I ever do a sequel to Tavern Quest, you can guarantee it will be online multiplayer. Prohine Gamer, who's written a lot of comments on YouTube channels in the past. Hi to you, my friend. Right, so what about Sword and Sandals 3 boss characters in Sword and Sandals 6? Definitely. That's going to be a DLC for it. So the whole Sword and Sandals 3 tournament will be playable with the Sword and Sandals 6 engine. Mr. DT123 writes, what happened with our protagonist after the adventure of Jewel of Heroes in Sword and Sandals 2 Redux? Good question. I'm not sure. Because it's another character that ends up defeating Chaos. Or is he just the character from Sword and Sandals 1? I think he might just be the nameless character from Sword and Sandals 1. If so, he's in the Tome of Lore, which I can bring up on my screen. And I'm just going to read from this now, but you should check it out. Go to swordandsandals.com and you can find out what happened to the characters. It's got information all the way up to the end of Crusader Redux and halfway through Sword and Sandals 3. So, oh, that's Sword and Sandals 2. Play. Yeah, so the sailor turned gladiator fought his way through a series of duels, rising in popularity and fame. He would be known only as the Gladiator. Eventually he found himself face to face with Chaos, and after a mighty battle he defeated Chaos and won enough riches to buy a ship and sail away. Chaos begged him to stay, promising a command position in a mysterious legion he was assembling. The Gladiator declined, noting that only Chaos seemed wild and unpredictable. His whereabouts remain unknown to this day, though some say he found his way to the fabled lands of Sagalis. So that's what happened to him, apparently. All right, where were we, my friends? Joe writes, Sword and Sandals 3 Remastered. That would be amazing. Yeah, probably not going to get its own remastering, but if I can bring the Sword and Sandals 3 Arena Champions and so on in Sword and Sandals 6, I'll either make it DLC or it'll be on standalone. We'll see how we go. Maybe it'll be its own standalone. Maybe that will finally be the Redux that we've been hoping for. Mr. Phone, it's a cool name, writes, he's got a little Nokia phone for his icon. Are you making all content of Sword and Sandals? Yeah, pretty much. I do all the programming, I do a lot of the art, I do some of the music. These days I get other people doing a lot of the music, but yeah, I do the programming and I create the stories, and yeah, it's my baby. It is. It's been a long time. Lobos das Neves writes, the table is served, the wine is poured. We come to it at last, the great feast of our time. From the Fat Kid. From the Little Fat Kid 2006. Awesome. He's from Brazil and he apologizes for his English, but please don't, because your English is way better than my Portuguese. He's got a bunch of law questions which I may not have answers to, but did Marie Dupont replace the original Iron Republic leader, or is she just related to him? She came before him. So Selen Helmgard was her brother, and he ends up killing her in a fit of rage after the events of Sword and Sandals Pirates. They kind of led a faction. So even though you see Selen Helmgard in Crusader, that's happening after Pirates. Her ghost comes back in Sword and Sandals 6. Sword and Sandals 2 Redux, why have so less options for armor and weapons in the original? Also, why aren't weapons unlocked based on stats? I just wanted to mix it up. I'm not sure exactly what the reason was for it, but I wanted people to be able to use more weapons rather than just being only strength for this one, only agility. That might not have, worked. Sword and Sandals 2 was pretty well balanced. Maybe the Redux wasn't as well balanced. But the reason for less armor and weapons is because They were harder to draw. They're all vector. The original ones are vectors, which means I could colorize them however I wanted in code. But excuse me, just had my breakfast. How rude. In Swords and Sandals 2 Redux, they're bitmaps, and so I had to have a set amount of them on one sprite sheet. And you can only fit that much artwork in one image, and you run out of memory, basically, programming reasons. But I've got a solution for that in Swords and Sandals 6, where I have much more armor. Which games account to the history and which ones the original Redux? I think for the purposes of the story, you kind of ignore the originals and go with the Redux ones, because I've kind of retrofitted things to make more sense. Question 4. Do you know Flash will stop working in browsers at the end of the year? Which means rest in peace, Swords and Sandals browser versions. Yeah. There are actually people working to preserve these in various archives. You can go look them up. You might be able to still find them in a browser somewhere. That's why I made the Classic Collection on Steam. They are pretty close to the originals with the same bugs and everything, which I apologize for. Some of those bugs I've just never been able to fix. But you'll always be able to play those browser versions if you get the Steam Classic Collection. I say always, but for the foreseeable future. It's sad. I'm going to miss the Flash era. I think the web is worse for not having it. It's a lot less fun. I think HTML5 sucks. I work in it. I do that for my other job, my part-time job. I think the work that my other job does with HTML5 is great. They do a good job. But as a technology, I just think it sucks. It's not as good as Flash. It's slow. Games in JavaScript just don't run as well. They take longer to download. Don't get me started on that. I miss Flash. He also asked, why does Swords and Sandals 3 have guns? Isn't Swords and Sandals 3 supposed to be at a time before guns existed? Because it's a fantasy world, anything can appear anywhere, and all these different things are coming through the Constellation Mirror. The automatons, those robots that come through in Swords and Sandals 3, they bring with them the technology of advanced guns like laser guns and chainsaws and things like that. But the technology for guns actually came out before that. And the gunpowder is a thing in Swords and Sandals, but it's very rare and only found on certain islands in the oceans of the Cycladian oceans or the Uveric oceans and that kind of thing. So in Pirates, they have muskets, but there's only small amounts of squads, and it's very rare. By the time Crusader comes along, gunpowder is basically almost non-existent, and it's such a rare commodity that nobody uses it. Plus, we have fireballs. So why do you want a gun? Why don't you make an option for Steam Workshop on the Steam games? You just run out of time. Because the games are made in Flash, they just can't be modded. It's too hard, unfortunately. I would like to have a Steam Workshop for Swords and Sandals 6, though, so keep that in mind. He also writes, good luck on making Crusader Redux. I'm sure it'll be awesome. Thanks, my friend. Thanks for writing, and big shout out to Brazil. Ilang Sacho writes, hello, Ollie. I don't have many questions right now. I'm just preparing for it. How's Crusader Redux going? It's going well. We've got Overland map is happening. I've got all the AI for the little characters moving around the map. I've got all the stories in. I've got the shops. I've got the main menus. You can choose your characters and everything. And I've started working on the battles right now. So hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have some battles. Hopefully still due out in sometime in May. Defka writes, hi, and how did it start? Could I say the origins? What are the Sword and Sandals series all related to the medieval era? I kind of answered this question in the first video, so go back and check that if you have time. But the origins of Sword and Sandals were, as a kid, I was always interested in fantasy books and gladiator stories, and can kind of fuse those two. I always loved castles as well. I had a Lego castle as a kid, and I played that more than anything else. I just love rebuilding it. And so the world of Sword and Sandals is kind of medieval, kind of ancient Rome, kind of Dungeons and Dragons, and I threw it all together. Sorry, I didn't answer that one as well as I could. Absolutely Kumot, great name, writes, can Sword and Sandals come to cell phones? You can find some of them on phones at the moment. If you type Sword and Sandals into Google Play or the App Store, you will find the Sword and Sandals 2 Redux, Sword and Sandals 5 Redux, and Mini Fighters, I think, is on there, and Pirates. So I think there's 4 games on mobile, but Spartacus is coming soon, which is a platform game, and Crusader Redux will be coming to mobile. Danny James writes, any chance you need some voice acting done? I work for free if you need anything done. Wow. Yeah, hit me up. Please DM me, get in touch with me via Twitter or Discord here. I'd love to have some more voices of the game. If you want to do some shouts or whatever, that would be awesome. Voice acting is a big part of the series, and I appreciate any fan contributions. Plus, unlimited Sword and Sandals for life. You do any work for me, I'll give you copies of the game. At least I can do. Nature T writes, Sword and Sandals for consoles. Oh man, imagine that. That would be so cool. I know Spartacus is coming to Switch. We've actually done a deal with a company called Ultimate Games to port Spartacus to the Switch. That's our first attempt at that. Sorry, my phone is being very loud. The games will, if this works and works well, Spartacus is the platform game, Switch, maybe Xbox, we'll see. If that port goes okay, then Sword and Sandals 6 will come to consoles in a few years' time. Because how much fun would that? Sit on the couch and play some Sword and Sandals. Apple Juice writes, will you ever make a Sword and Sandals for Redux? Maybe. I said no. I've always said no, I won't, because it's too hard. But maybe one day. But I'd probably do all new mini games that are kind of more fun. Those old mini games are a bit crap. Xander TTV writes, where can I buy Sword and Sandals 3? You can get that as part of the Classic Collection on Steam. So if you go into Steam or Google and type in Swords and Sandals Classic Collection, Sword and Sandals 3 is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, maybe not 5. 5 might not be part of that because it was reduxed. But Crusader is on there, and also Mini Fighters is on there as well. So you get a bunch of games. Grinch Jr. writes, are you going to make a new Sword and Sandals game? Yeah, Sword and Sandals 6 is coming out. What graphics will I use? I thought about doing it 3D, but I'm now leaning towards maybe 2D cartoon characters in a similar style as the old ones. But imagine like a Paper Mario style 3D backgrounds with 2D characters. That could be really cool. Just want to remind you that your game has been my childhood, and each time I watch a video related to Sword and Sandals, I get filled with nostalgia. Until next time, God bless. God bless you, Grinch. Thanks for writing that, and thanks for being part of this Sword and Sandals story. I've said it before, but without the fans, there is no Sword and Sandals. Porno Coma, my good friend, who also did some translation work on Sword and Sandals Spartacus. Cheers to you. He writes, I wonder when things get hard, when you left the company and lost the rights to Sword and Sandals, how did you feel? What kept you going from a game dev point of view? So for people who don't know this, the old company, who I do not mention, they're like Voldemort, and I worked them for almost 9 years, building Sword and Sandals and other things. Eventually, the relationship sort of soured, and I was doing a lot of non-game related projects, and the last Sword and Sandals became a very frayed development, and it's been kind of well documented in early videos, but eventually I kind of snapped and had a falling out and left the company, and I lost the rights to Sword and Sandals. Yeah, this was a really rough time in my life. It was the end of 2013. Basically got fired. I say I left, but I got fired. It ended badly, and we don't speak to each other. I still have some friends from that company, one or two, but it's a shame. We both acted in an immature fashion. So that's all I'll say about it, really. It's in the past now. But at the time, I remember feeling just really lost, really just sad. I don't get, depression is a very strong term, and I don't really get that feeling. But I remember just sitting on my couch in my little apartment while everyone, my girlfriend at the time was not living with me, but she'd come over a lot, and but she had to work. And I remember sitting there just being balled up on the couch like this, kind of shaking, because this had been not only 9 years of my life, it had been the lifeblood. The Sword and Sandals series meant so much to me, but I'd given it away. I'd given up the rights to it. It was just really sad. I mean, sad is a relative term. In terms of real world tragedies, it's nothing. But in terms of losing something dear to me, it was a lot. And it took me a while to mentally get over that, and I was pretty angry and so on. As a game dev, though, I got back on the wagon very quickly. Within a week, I was starting work on another game. I made a little game called Captain Fishblock, which is no longer available. I might bring it back one day. It's a little sort game. It's a puzzle game where you're on a boat and blocks fall down and you got to catch them. And I made that. Then I made another game and another game. I just made a whole bunch of games under my new studio label, Whiskeybarrel Studios, just because I had nothing to do, and I wanted to basically keep myself busy. But the reality was, because I didn't have the rights to Sword and Sandals, and I'd lost the rights to release You Are a Knight, which basically was Sword and Sandals Medieval under a different name, I couldn't do anything. I basically was stuck, and so I didn't know what to do. And I ended up just doing a lot of freelance work. But when my friends at eGames came on the scene the year after, about 18 months later, it was like a ray of sun came through and basically changed everything. And I did this long-term deal with, it's basically he's my business partner. There's a guy in New York and me, we team up. He does the marketing and the business side of things. I make the games, and we share any profits and that kind of thing. And it's allowed me to continue on this. And so, anytime, it's a long story, but anytime personal, you lose your job or something bad happens to you, it can be really hard, and you often don't get over these things quickly. But like everything, time heals all wounds, and I'm in a better place now than I ever have been. It's been 6.5 years, and I feel great. I feel fine. I feel wonderful. Thanks for asking anyway, Pono. Poino. And on a happier note, he says, I want to know if possible, how did a little fat kid come to Brandor? Can't tell you that yet, but I will tell you this. He's way more than he seems. He is, let's just say, godlike. He's a powerful. He's not just any old child. Great question. Thank you. Zed, what's your dream game to make in terms of setting story? Two-part answer to this. Games I wish I'd made, Terraria. I wish I made it. That's my favorite game, probably. It's one of my top 2 or 3 favorite games. There's just, I wish I'd made that game. I love that game. I love everything about it. It's so addictive. I love seeing what people do with it. I love just the creativity and the vastness of that world. In terms of the game that I would make, the one I want to make is probably Constellation Mirror, which is like a big role-playing game. It's like imagine the old Ultima games, Baldur's Gate, that kind of thing. It's a party-based game. You have a fighter, a mage, a cleric, that kind of thing. And you go around the world of Brandor, having adventures, doing quests and so on. If Sword and Sandals 6 does well enough that I'm able to keep working full-time, I want to make that game. And that will take me a couple of years because it's a big, big game. And I need a lot of artwork and might need to hire some writers and that kind of thing. But that'll probably be the dream game for me to make, because as a kid growing up, I really loved Ultima 6, and I looked up to Lord British, Richard Garriott, in the same way that, not that you guys look up to me, but like if you're an aspiring game developer and you kind of see the stuff that I've done, it's very achievable. And I looked up to what Richard Garriott did and making the Ultima series. And, I'm nowhere near as successful as him at all, but I really was inspired by his story, and hopefully my story as a solo developer can inspire any of you guys who would like to be game developers. Yeah, so Constellation Mirror, the role-playing game, would be my dream game. What's your dream game? Love to know. Dio writes, will Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux have a map editor? Oh, man. No. Sadly not. It will not have a map editor just because it's a fairly small project and the Pirates engine doesn't support it. But if I ever do a proper sequel to Crusader Redux, if Crusader 2, Brandor breaks into war again, or Eldor Hath breaks out, comes and tries to take over the realm, that could have a map editor. I do that in Unity, and that is a bit more modding kind of stuff. So, yeah, sorry, no, for now. Elang Sachi, who wrote some questions before. Greetings, Oliver. We meet again. Got some more questions. Can you make Crusader Redux be free to play with no paywalls? Man, I wish I could, but because this is my job now, as far as I do this 3 days a week, I need to pay the bills. I got a business partner in America, and we try to give away, bits and pieces now and again, but I got to charge for the games. Sadly, I'm sorry. Spartacus is free, but you got to pay for extra lives. It kind of counts, but one day, if I'm ever wealthy enough, if the games ever do so well, I'll make the old games free. How about that? If we're ever doing really well and we have like a big hit, I'm talking like a game as big as like Flappy Bird or Celeste or something like that, I'll make the old games free. You got it in writing. What do you think about someone professional interviewing you? Or are we interviewing right now? I guess you are. I guess you're interviewing me by these questions, but I would love to have like a proper interview series with someone if we can ever sit down and make that happen. That'd be cool. Here's an interesting question. With the rise of some groups wanting to be represented, what do you think about BLT characters added to this SNES universe? BLT, bacon, lettuce, tomato? He doesn't mean that. What Elang is talking about is, in Australia we call it GLADQ. It has a lot of acronyms. Basically, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual. Basically, anyone that's not heterosexual for a long time has not been represented in video games, and a few video games have tried, and you're seeing more and more now as games come out. Still not that many, and I think it's important. Diversity is a big thing. People like to be able to see themselves represented because, let's be honest, for the majority of gaming history, most game protagonists look like me. I'm a white man with brown hair and stubble. You look at Uncharted, everybody looks like that in video games for so long. It's become a bit of a joke. And so you don't see that many, black heroes or Asian heroes or, Asian women or, Aboriginal old men, whatever it is. There is not that many games. But you're starting to see more and more diversity with the rise of indie games. Diversity in gaming has become a thing. In Swords and Sandals, I haven't really... These are gladiators. Gender identity hasn't really come into it. It's entirely possible because I'm not J.K. Rowling or someone that kind of goes in and goes, do you know Dumbledore was gay all along? Retrofits these things in. It's something that, sure, why not? Why wouldn't these gladiators, some of them, be gay or transgender? Just because I haven't mentioned doesn't mean it's not there. You go back to like ancient Rome and ancient Greece and so on, and homosexuality was a big part of it. And it's only sort of in our modern times that we've there's been all this sort of stigma around all that sort of non-conformative stuff, really. And it's really good to see people free to be themselves finally in many parts of the world. And I have good friends who are gay, and we only just passed the marriage vote in Australia. How about that? 2019, or was it 2018? We finally allowed gay people to marry each other. And how backwards is that? We've got a long way to go yet. I would like, if there is going to be kind of romances in Swords and Sandals, I want to be able to put gay characters or transgender characters or whatever it is. I don't want that to become a something to do because it's cool, but if it's part of their story, then sure, I think I should bring it in. And certainly by the time the role-playing game comes out, you may see some of that representation. So it's important. Representation matters. Good question. Thank you. Sorry for the long answer. What do you think about other Gladiator Flash games like Siege's Arena or Sandals of the Colosseum? To be honest, I haven't played that many of them. I remember playing Sandals of the Colosseum a little while ago. It's a bit more brutal and dark, and they're pretty addictive. And some of them are really popular. There are games on the app stores and so on that have more plays than Swords and Sandals. This is certainly not the biggest game Gladiator series out there, but I think it's the best. So I try not to play them in case they sort of like kind of corrupt my ideas. I don't know. I should though. I should kind of see if I can learn from them. What do you think of the Stick War series? I'd been years and years since I played them. I remember the stick animation battles were so cool. Animator versus animation. They were awesome back in the Flash days. Elang also asks, since most franchises have a sort of character focused on sex appeal, like Natalie from Epic Battle Fantasy or Merritt from Stick War, What do you think? Who do you think would be the best character in the Sword and Sandals to fit this role? Who's the most attractive, basically? I know Matt Rozak, who does Epic Battle Fantasy, is a Twitter friend of mine. He gets a lot of fan art based on the characters and a lot of sort of almost hentai kind of stuff. Anime porn, really, almost. The characters in Sword and Sandals haven't really had that treatment yet. I know that one of the Discord channels post your artwork here has a lot of stuff on Katsumoto, the arena champion from Sword and Sandals 2, and Luminesca, the magician. So maybe they would be the sex appeal one, the handsome sort of he is a Dracondirian warrior, sort of Asian appearance, very nice cheekbones and handsome, honorable man. And Luminesca is a beautiful mage. I don't know. I can't answer that without sounding like an idiot. Maybe Battle Maiden Anna, the big kind of strapping Amazon woman. Maybe Wolfgang, because he looks like me. Who knows? Okay, was every race in Brandor inspired by stereotypes of actual groups in history? He actually mentions, for example, Edites being Jews, Dracons being Asian, Takashi Africans. I kind of assume that Edites are more like Spaniards, sort of like from that sort of olive complexion from Spain, the kind of the hot, almost sort of lower Mediterranean style people, Spain, Italy kind of thing, not necessarily Jewish background. Not all Dracons are Asians, believe it or not. Belgrave has Asian appearance. One of his ancestors actually came from Earth. Same with Katsumoto. That's why they're sort of Japanese style. But a lot of Dracons are not Asian. They have a high Asian population. When I say Asian, it's not actually called Asian, but the Asian appearance. But not every race is has that sort of stereotypical background. But a lot of them do. A lot of the sort of Braxians are sort of ancient Greece, that kind of thing. Praetorians are more like medieval France, Europe, that kind of stuff. I guess I don't really remember why I did that, but he finally writes, by the way, Katsu and Lumi is kind of cool. I'm totally not him, by the way. What do you think of Katsu and Luma's story, which he never finished? I don't know. Are you the guy that did all the drawings for them? If not, you tell me. You've probably got all the stories for them. These guys in my kind of lore really have never met, so I got to add them in. Maleko writes, do you ever release your games in a box? Not yet, but I would love to have a boxed edition of the games. That would be awesome. That would be really cool. Just have like a physical box with a cloth map or something. Cobalt Crusader writes, will Sword and Sandals 3D be on mobile anytime soon? No, sadly not. It's too hard to do. This is probably an out-of-date question, but why does Sword and Sandals Medieval look so different from the other games? By the way, you're amazing, and thanks for your awesome work. Thank you, my friend Cobalt. You're amazing. Thank you for saying so. Okay, the story behind Medieval was originally it was called You Are a Knight, and it was my own take on a Sword and Sandals games without actually being a Sword and Sandals game, because I wanted to break free from the old company and have my own game series, but I didn't have the rights to the names. So I teamed up with Tony Lowe, the illustrator, and he did all the artwork. We didn't want to make it too similar to Sword and Sandals in case we got, in trouble. I got in trouble anyway, so it didn't matter. By the time I released Sword and Sandals Medieval, all the art was there, and I didn't bother going back to changing it to look like the medieval characters. I drew the classic gladiator characters, and Tony drew these ones. Personally, I don't really like the style of Medieval. I know a lot of people are the same. It's a bit too cartoony, a bit too childlike. One day, if I have the time and the patience, I might go back and redo that art in the Swords and Sandals style, because I'm not a huge fan of that style. Elang Satchel writes some more questions. You've been busy. I've got some questions. How has your friendship with your mates been since Sword and Sandals? You Aussie? You an Aussie saying mates? Any news about Tony, as in Tony Lowe, Adrian Galassi, or Gabriel Castro? Tony I'm still friends with, and I actually work with him part-time at this educational place where we do educational content for kids. Tony's 6'9", a giant of a man. He doesn't do much illustration outside of work anymore. He doesn't illustrate for games anymore. He just does kids' educational stuff. Still a good friend, and I'm hopefully catching up with him for a beer on Friday night. A lovely ale or two, and maybe some of the old ex Third Sense group as well. So that'll be fun, the old gang. So Adrian Galassi is the composer of a lot of Sword and Sandal music. He lives in Salvador, Brazil, and unfortunately he doesn't do much more music composition anymore. It's kind of sad. So I wish he would come back and do some music. Maybe one day he will. I've got some new composers now for the other stuff, but Adrian is a fantastic composer, and hopefully we'll work on Sword and Sandals again. Gabriel Castro I've lost touch with. Still have him on Facebook. He did the heavy metal theme. But he's a great guy, and I hopefully will run into him again sometime. He also writes, what was the hardest year of the game dev career? As I mentioned earlier in this video, 2014, which is the first year of Whiskeybarrel Studios, was the hardest because I didn't have much money and I had to start from scratch without making Sword and Sandals. He finally asked, how will you handle fame if Sword and Sandals becomes really popular? Look, I think if a game series becomes popular, people still don't know the creator. I've tried to kind of become approachable and as sort of, synonymous with the game series as I can, just so you guys have someone to chat to about it. But, you look at a big game series like Super Mario Brothers, everyone knows Shigeru Miyamoto as the creator, but you don't really know who made Uncharted because it was 100 people. Everyone knows Stardew Valley, but not everyone knows the creator, who I can't even remember the name of the guy. I would like to be, fame would be kind of fun. It'd be fun, but I wouldn't like all the harassment from crazy stalkers and that kind of thing. I'd love the game series to be famous. It's fun having people recognize you, I think, but I think it would be kind of nuts if people were, knew where you lived and would come around to your house and demand autographs and so on. It wouldn't be fun for your family either. I don't know how people really do it. So we're nearly towards the end. We've got about 15 questions. Mama Platz writes, Oliver, what do you think of the current gaming industry with so many developers charging money for the simplest things like changing hair colors and so on? That's just, it's super competitive. There's so many games out there. Every day, 100 games get released or something like that, something ridiculous. It's never been a worse time to be a game developer as far as trying to make money. Most of the money on Steam is made by a handful of companies. Something like 5% of the games make 95% of the money, and the rest of us fight for the scraps. I'm in the top 50%, which means I make some money, but I'm nowhere near that. And I think the games industry is, pretty rough. I think there's still always ways to make money, and if you have something like Sword and Sandals, you're guaranteed to make a little bit of money. But I want to say to people, you can do it, because I want you to be successful in the games business if that's something you're interested in. But it's hard. Do it as a hobby, and then if you make money, great. That's what I would suggest. And on the same note, was Sword and Sandals Spartacus successful? So far, no. So far, it hasn't made that much money. Given that I spent a year on it almost, it will be a long time before that makes its money back, sadly. But we're bringing it on the Switch and mobile phones and so on, so hopefully it has a long tail. And I enjoyed making it and learning Unity in the process. And, it's a fun game. If you haven't played it, please give it a chance. It's not like any other Sword and Sandals games, more like Rastan Saga or Castlevania, that kind of thing. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess people were expecting something more Sword and Sandals-like. And also kind of a little bit stupid of me to make another pixel art platformer, given that there's a million of them out there. Trudinsky Storinchel, damn it, I'll get that right one day, writes, what do you think about Flash shutting down? Sad times. I'm going to miss Flash. I think it was a golden era. Flash gave me the start from Sword and Sandals. As you know, all the old Sword and Sandals games were made in Flash. And Crusader Redux is actually made in a very advanced version of Flash. So you can still make desktop games in Flash now. So it's never truly going away. X-Portal, God enters the chat. The Yeti project has entered the chat. God has left the chat. That's a comment, not a question. The Yeti project, of course, is the most difficult boss in all of Sword and Sandals history. It's very infamous from Sword and Sandals 3. Agate Nebula writes, anything about Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux project? Yeah, that's coming out. That'll be out in May, as I mentioned. I'm about over halfway through, so we're powering along. I need to finish this video soon so I can actually work on it, because today is Monday in Australia and I really should be working on the game, even though it's nearly 11 o'clock in the morning. I can get this video finished. We're going to speed up. All right, Droid Gamer writes, hey, do you have in mind making a big team of developers to make a bigger, more ambitious Sword and Sandals? Like 2v2 battles, a crowd that can throw things at people, big map to browse. If Sword and Sandals 6 ever becomes really popular, I will hire a bigger team. It all depends on how much money you need to be successful. You have to operate lean. I make enough money to cover myself for 3 days, but not quite full-time work. If we ever make real money, then yeah, I'd love to hire, get a big studio. But that's often how companies fail as well. DMH Drawings writes, why is it when you kill a bad person you become more evil, or if you spare a bad person you become more good? Just wondering. Of course, not talking about real life. This is basically in Sword and Sandals 3, when you spare a character, you become more good. It's almost like a Christian ethos, like, forgiveness. And killing is evil, not killing is good. Simple as that, really. It's a very simple morality. I'm sure there's more shades to it than that. Colvin Ruler writes, how did you come up with the idea to make Sword and Sandals? And what is the next Sword and Sandals going to be called? I covered the first question already earlier, but the next Sword and Sandals will be called, drumroll, I'm not sure yet. It was some kind of Latin name like Legendarium or like, Ultratus, something, I've already used that one before, but it'll be a cool Latin name. Something kind of epic sounding. Thurnos asks, a bit generic, but what was the weakest point in your whole game making career? Were the moments where you just wanted to give up? I kind of answered this earlier, but probably the weakest moment was when I lost my job in 2013. The moments that I'm least proud of were probably making Tavern Quests. Didn't enjoy making that. I didn't enjoy parts of Sword and Sandals 5 because I was fighting with my boss at the time. It was a bit of a cash grab, and I wanted to make it this big dungeon crawl. He wanted to put this arena stuff in. We wanted to put this crap multiplayer that wasn't really multiplayer. I hated making Gross Out, which is an old Sword and Sandals reskin for some card game company. Look it up. You'll find it online somewhere. Hated that. That was the first step that made me realize the old company didn't care about Sword and Sandals and they just wanted to cash in. Hated Gross Out. Thanks for asking. Xportal asks, are you going to make Sword and Sandals 3 Redux? And what happens when you go to space? I answered that one before, but for those who didn't hear, 3 Redux might happen with the Sword and Sandals 6 engine, but it'll come after 6. It might just be a DLC pack. But yeah, we will be doing the space component as an expansion as well. That could be fun. We'll work out what's going to happen with that. Toro Roa writes, where can I buy Sword and Sandals 3? Checked on Steam and I can't see 3 and 4. Go to the Classic Collection. Look for Sword and Sandals Classic Collection and you can buy it there, as well as the other games all in one. How will the champions from Sword and Sandals 3 work in Sword and Sandals 6, writes Danciel Nicolay. They will look pretty similar to the old ones, but the stats will all be different because there'll be a whole new game engine. Going to get through a few of these. Elang Sacha writes a few more. I can't answer all these because I'm running out of time. Is the term of law changed from Whiskeybarrel Studios to swordandsandals.com? Yeah, it's now on swordandsandals.com. You can find it there. Go check it out. How does the Constellation Mirror actually work? How many people can go through? Don't know just yet. I'm still figuring that out, but it's big enough for spaceships to go through. And it's basically a portal, like a magic portal into different planets. I've got to flesh that one out too. How long will the Stylonius bloodline go for? Stylonius, son of Stylonius. We've got to have grandson of Stylonius in Sword and Sandals 6, don't we? He's got to be part of that. Any future for the 3 Lees, like Sphericles, Mossicles, and Physicles? Sphericles will be back. The other 2, probably not. Any future for the musicians? Sir Brian of May, Leopold, and Flavius. Ultra Flavius will be back. The others will probably not. Any future for Bosun Smythe and Nine Cat Jack? Nah, they're too old now. They're dead. They're from the Sword and Sandals 1 era. They'd be 100 years old now. if Elix Harpy Queen had children, would they give birth or lay eggs? Lay eggs. She's like got wings and so on. Does she rule a kingdom of harpies, or is she queen, just a title? She's just a queen. She rules an island, basically, an island of the evil harpies. They're not even a race, really. They're more a magical construct that kind of snuck through the mirror and not enough people. Is there any major contact between Brando before the Crusades and the Pirate Lords? Not so much. There have been different city-states that have fought in the past, but it's still a very young planet. The Crusades is the first major conflict to ever hit the realms. What is Argolis? Why is Argolis? And how is Argolis? Argolis is a beast man, but we don't really know what kind of beast. Almost like a hyena, a man hyena, and he's from another planet. I'll say that much, but we don't know why he comes to Brandor yet, or what, how. But we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out at some point. And so, because there's demons and angels roaming around Brandor, there's how exactly does heaven and hell work in the Sword and Sandals universe? What the Tritonians and Brandorians think are demons and angels are actually creatures from other planets. There's a planet of like demonic like people, and there is a planet of angelic people that hate each other for reasons yet to be explained. But there's no actual heaven and hell. There's no gods in this universe either. And when you pray to these creatures, nothing actually happens. That's a little secret. It's all just magic. All up here. I don't know. I made that up then. Plus, right, or asterisk writes, what is Galacticus Fantasticus? And who is Cygax and Vedivarius ZX81? This is the tournament from Sword and Sandals, the space one that's not out there yet, but they will be part of Sword and Sandals 6, probably. We'll find out. Milkane Uolada Milka? You made my childhood. Thank you. I like a glass of milk. That's all I'll say to that. But thanks for writing. I do appreciate the comment. Stop this damn phone. I've got a lot of messages. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully not anything serious. Stealthy Spectre writes, how will Sword and Sandals 6 multiplayer work? It'll not be a campaign. It will be you'll be able to go into like a lobby and choose someone else to matchmake. It'll do separate. Maybe you can earn experience. It might be like Warcraft, where you got the PvP experience points and regular experience points. We'll figure it out. I've got to start thinking about that. Necron Lord, how big will Sword and Sandals be? Bigger than all the other ones. There'll be at least twice as many arena champions. I said 100. I might have been a bit ambitious, but there will be a lot. South Penguin J writes, what do you think of YouTuber penguins, otherwise called most critical, playing your games? Personally, I was really surprised to see a big YouTuber playing them, especially considering they've been out for years. I was surprised too, but YouTubers are always playing these games. Back in the days, Jerome ASF, who became known as the Minecraft guy, and he's massive, used to play them. Karolek, who's a big Polish YouTuber. There's other big ones I've forgotten, but there's been millions and millions of views on some of these videos. It makes a huge difference. Anytime one of these guys wants to play them, I think because they go back and play games from their own childhood, in the same way that I do with games, Gladiator. That's why they make funny videos about stuff like that. It's probably more fun to make a video like that rather than a game about the modern era. Vezipu writes, not related to Sword and Sandals, but when I was a kid playing games, I was really into watching pro wrestling. I was wondering maybe if you were interested to watch pro wrestling. Yeah, man, I love pro wrestling. I loved Andre the Giant. He was my favorite back in the 80s. And I still remember WrestleMania 3 and Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant and the epic, the good versus evil when Andre got hypnotized. I loved Junkyard Dog and Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov and Randy Macho Man Savage and Ultimate Warrior. Golden era for me. I didn't really follow wrestling during the Rock era and the John Cena and even Undertaker and stuff. It was probably a little after my time, but as a kid I loved it. I want to make a pro wrestling game one day, maybe using like the Sword and Sandals style engine. That'd be awesome. Thanks for writing the question, Vizzy Poo. Very cool, man. Yeah, pro wrestling's the best. It's so cool. It's basically the closest thing we have to kind of theatrics of modern gladiating. Why is Yeti so overpowered? Writes Samad Ghafoor. Because I stuffed up the stats. I was just putting in numbers and didn't realize I probably put in too much strength for him. But it was a happy accident because games like that need to have tough bosses, and things like Dark Souls pride itself on being tough. And you can bet that Sword and Sandals 6 will have very tough bosses. I've thought about making Yeti Project less powerful, but I think it should be powerful. It deserves to be powerful. All right. We have 4 more questions to go, and one of them is a 10-parter, so we'll leave that till last. Stealthy Spectre writes, how balanced will Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux be? This is because in original you can spam undead soldiers, which makes battles extremely one-sided. I'm going to nerf that. I'm going to make it so undead soldiers can only be used at night in terms of the ones you raise from the dead. I'll make it so you can't raise them during the day. Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux has day and night, and depending on the time of day, Antares will have an advantage or he won't, that kind of thing, in the same way that terrain has an advantage. And I mispronounced this one, but Mushtaba Gonul, sorry, I must have stuffed that, writes, which religion do you follow? So this might surprise you guys, and the world is full of different religions and faiths and so on. I was raised Catholic. I went to a Jesuit school, and I was Christian until I was about 12 or 13. Now I'm an atheist. I personally have come to the conclusion that I don't believe in God or a God, and I'm sort of yet to be convinced otherwise. You know, good thing is I don't know the answers. You don't know the answers. I think it's important to have a discourse and to respect others. I think there's a lot of value in faith and community, and there's a lot of good stuff to be found in the lessons that Jesus told and in Prophet Muhammad told, and of course in things like in Buddhism, there's a lot of gems of wisdom to be found from the Bible and in religion and so on. But personally, I just can't reconcile myself with the fact that there's an almighty creator. Sorry, that sounds a bit controversial, but that's just what I believe. And I think the most important thing for me, the creed that I live by, is really kind of 2-part, and that's live and let live, and be an honorable person. I think if you can try and follow those rules, be kind to each other. Basically, like Bill and Ted said, be excellent to each other. If we can all try and follow that rule, maybe we'll be all fine, and maybe there is a God, and if so, then I hope that, I hope that he sees that I've tried to be a good person. Maybe that's enough, we'll see. Tough question, but, I want to be honest with everybody. Rockvi Hrafran Gudnason, I believe that's got to be a Swedish name or something, and I butchered it as well, I'm sorry. Was there any major content removed from the Sword and Sandals trilogy, scrapped ideas and concepts? I mentioned this earlier, but not really. It pretty much was all in there. There's a few kind of I think early on I tried to get really ambitious with certain things. I originally wanted Sword and Sandals 5 to be a full-on like adventure quest where you go around in a gladiator school and so on. You can find a video on that somewhere on my channel. I can't remember which one, but there's early concepts where you walked around almost like an MMO, but that had to be scrapped. That was the biggest thing got scrapped. On a side note, thanks, man. Sword and Sandals is probably the only game I still play from when I was 5. When you're 5, wow. So you're probably 20 now. Wow. I love hearing people who've grown up with that series. That's cool, man. So the last question, as we hit the 1 hour mark, 1 hour 3, this is probably the last batch of questions from Elang Satya. Can you search up Sword and Sandals Rule 34? No. I remember in the last Ask Me Anything, Rule 34 basically states that, I didn't realize this until the last thing because that's how naive I am, is something like if there is something that's popular on the internet, you can guarantee someone's made porn of it. And if you've made porn of Sword and Sandals, keep it to yourself. I don't know. Do what you want. I guess they're gladiators. People kind of find them attractive. Do you wear pants when making these videos? If yes, show us. Trust me, today I'm wearing pants. See? Can you see? Pants. Keyboard. Pants. I'm a 3D person. Good video. Good question. That's funny. The things you kind of discover when you do these videos. Yeah, pants. I wear pants. Because you got to answer the door sometimes. What do you do if you answer the door and you don't have pants on? Have you bought a coffee maker yet? Still haven't. I'm just being cheap. Still drinking instant coffee. Terrible. Who is a malevolent? Is she hot? She or he is. I don't even know if it's a he or a she. It's an alien from another planet that, for some reason, wants to come to Tritonia. Some people on Brandor, evil cultists, worship it as a god, and Antares actually made a pact with this thing to get brought back to life. And it failed. Antares failed in his attempt to bring the malevolence through the portal. And the malevolence was very unhappy and then just cut Antares off and no more raising from the dead. So the malevolence actually allows, if you can make a pact with the malevolence, you can actually raise people from the dead. Pretty interesting thing I found when making a character is I couldn't use swear words. Why is that? It was a rule from the old company that we didn't want to get into trouble with kids and parents and so on with swear words. I might bring swear words back for the new games. Who knows? I guess you're all grown up. Often, like if you make a game for Nintendo or something, they'll not allow you to have swear words. What do you think of Anna from Sword and Sandals, as Battle Maiden Anna, and Anna from Epic Battle Fantasy, adventuring together through the realms of Brandor? That'd be cool. I actually wouldn't mind contacting Matt Rozak and seeing if he wants to bring a character into Sword and Sandals. That might be fun because they're very similar in their terms of popularity, and Epic Battle Fantasy is a Flash game series from many years ago that has, really kicked a lot of goals and is still making games. And Matt still makes games in Flash. Epic Battle Fantasy 5 just came out. Great guy, great developer, and I wish him all the best. And I'd love to maybe do some kind of team up with him. Tiddy or booty? I see what you did there. Tiddy. I can't answer that, my friend. I'm a married man now, and I love it all. I love everything. I think I love. I don't know what is happening with these questions, my friends. How will you say goodbye to Flash, both in your programming journey and in its inaccessibility on web browsers? I've been saying goodbye to Flash for many years. Crusader Redux is the last game I make using the Flash program. It exports as Air, which is graphics accelerated desktop version of Flash. That'll be the last hurrah. That's it for Flash for us. We won't be making any more games using that anymore. I'm going to miss it. I'll pour one out for my homies, basically. Have a glass of whiskey and say farewell. How will you celebrate the Sword and Sandals 15th anniversary? Which I guess if we said 2006 is the first year, even though some people seem to think it's 2005, we should do something next year. We should have some kind of celebration. I think we should. Maybe merchandise. Maybe that's what we'll do. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of round 4 of questions and answers. We got controversial, we got deep, we got silly, we got nonsensical, we got everything. And I want to thank you for an entertaining hour and 45 minutes, nearly 2 hours of questions over 2 videos. Thanks for staying with me to the end, those who did, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next video. I'm exhausted now. I've got to do some work on Crusader. Have a good week, everybody. You guys are the best. I salute you, and bye for now.